Chapter 17, A Weekend in the Hamptons. The number of stolen cars I drove around Yonkers is ironic. The first time I was actually caught for the crime was in Long Island. It was Friday night and I was with a friend I met at Children's Village named Dre. We had just picked up a nice Toyota Corolla limited edition and were bored with driving around Yonkers, hollering at the same girls, seeing the same niggas on the corner. So Dre came up with the idea to drive to Long Island. He said he had family we could chill with and could definitely find a hot party to go to. I didn't have a better suggestion, so we got on the highway. We probably should have thought how long a trip it was, though, because since we didn't leave New York until after 3 a.m., we didn't get to Long Island until the sun was coming up. So much for going to a party. So we just crashed out at his people's house. They lived in this small, country looking hood on the outskirts of East Hampton. In the morning, we chilled with his peoples for a little while and then decided to go get some beers. I didn't think anything of it then, but none of his family came with us. In the late 80s, the Hamptons was even more the home of the rich and the white than it is today. Even though East Hampton was probably the most metropolitan of the four towns in the area, it was still extremely unlikely to find two teenage black kids driving around in a brand new car. The rappers driving Bentleys invasion hadn't happened to the Hamptons yet. Black folks like Dre's peoples lived on the other side of the train tracks, and that's where the ruling townsfolk expected them to stay. But we didn't know that. I had already learned what you don't do when you're not familiar with where you are. But Dre was 15, 2 years younger than me. And the whole trip he had been driving real extra, and I could tell he was thirsty to act out. When he pulled in front of the grocery store, I told him to chill. Yo, when I come back with the beer, we can go to a park or something and relax. Of course, when I came out of the store, Dre was gone. So here I was, early Saturday morning, standing in the middle of Main Street, East Hampton, holding a bag of beer. Not the move. Then, just as I started to walk up the block to look for him, I saw a police car drive past, and guess who was in the back seat? This motherfucker went and got knocked. My first instinct, being the loyal kid that I was to try to find my way back to his people's house to get help. The problem was that I really couldn't remember where their place was. All I knew was that it was in a row of raggedy houses that didn't look like nothing nearby. And after about an hour of walking around the neighborhood getting lost, the same police car finally rolled up on me. This time, no Dre. I was still carrying that bag of beer. Hey kid, where you going? I got some family that lives out here, I replied. Yeah. Well, what do you have in the bag? Beer. Aren't you too young to be buying beer, son? Well, then, you better go get the guy in the store. I don't have nothing to do with that, I said with an attitude. That answer pissed them off. But I was right. There was nothing illegal about me holding an unopened bottle of beer. The clerk was the one that was supposed to get in trouble for not checking my ID. Well, you're going to have to come and show us who sold it to you then. I don't remember where the store was. Now the bullshit started. Well, why don't you let us help you then? If you don't, we're going to start taking this bottle of beer of yours a little more seriously. Uh, well, okay. I guess I can show you where. I could show you where. And that was my first mistake. I got into the back of the squad car with no handcuffs on or nothing. Then, of course, instead of pulling up in front of the store where I bought the beer like they said, the cops pulled up in front of the police station. Officer, this is not where the store is. Yeah, we know, but we want you to come inside for a minute. But the store is over there. We're not going to the store anymore. Now come inside and shut your mouth. When I got inside the precinct, they led me to a small interrogation room where they started grilling me about the car. I knew they didn't see me in it or anywhere near it, so I just kept denying everything. The only way they could know about me was if Dre told them something. I don't know anything about any car, man. I don't know nothing. I didn't do nothing. Are you going to make us find your fingerprints on the door handle, boy? Then you'll be a liar. And I hate little liars. I don't give a fuck. Do whatever, man. I wasn't going to let these cops massage me more than they already had. Do what you gotta do. I wasn't there. Then I saw Dre's shadow in the mirror and I realized that the bastard was snitching me out. After a few minutes, they brought him into the room. Is that him? They asked him. Yeah, he answered, looking squarely at me. He stood right in front of my face. That's him. His name is Earl. I don't know what he's talking about, man. I got desperate in a hurry. That wasn't me. I was already on probation and was not trying to go to jail. That wasn't fucking me. Dre was a minor. He was getting off once a parent came to get him anyway. So why did he have to turn me in? But the most fucked up part was when his grandfather came to the station and I noticed that he was wearing a badge. Dre's grandfather worked for the sheriff's department in another county, so Dre knew he was straight all along. But it was over for me. I was getting locked up. Earl Simmons was now a convicted felon. When I was younger, my mother and her friend Thelma had me scared to death about getting locked up. Tell him about what they do to boys in jails, Thelma always said when my mother was beating my ass. Just like the officers on Alexander Street, the two of them thought a good deterrent was making me think that on the first day I walked into a jail, somebody was going to fuck me in the ass. Well, it didn't happen like that, but I did arrive at the farm with a real hard-ass attitude. Don't say nothing to me. Don't even fucking look at me. I'm not saying nothing to nobody, and I ain't going to ask you for shit. So don't ask me for shit. The farm, the minimum security division of Suffolk County Correctional Facility in Yaphank, Long Island, was similar to the barges New York State used to house inmates who are convicted of nonviolent crimes like theft or drunk driving. It wasn't meant to be as secure or restrictive as the main unit of SCCF. Instead of cells, inmates lived grouped together in dorms or mods. You could freely associate with the other guys in your mod, use a Walkman, read, or play cards, and while in no way did you have your freedom, life in the farm, at least on the minor block where I was, wasn't the most difficult experience for me, especially after what I had been through over the past 2 years in industry in McCormick. Now that I was grown, though, the hardest thing to endure was being without pussy for all those weeks and months. That was tough. There were some pretty female corrections officers in jail, too, and a lot of them were freaks. The freak COs would be the ones that lived right in the same hood as you and knew all of your peoples from around the way. Behind bars was the only place that I ever considered paying for some ass, because I definitely would have tossed a couple of dollars to one of them to knock it down. I never got that chance, though. After a few days in the farm, I hooked up with two guys named Paz and Rondu, and we started running game on other kids in the dorm. I was familiar with the commissary routine from my time spent in McCormick. Yo, you better order me 2 packs of cigarettes and I want 6 Milky Way bars, I would tell the kids that I knew had money in my mod. Surprisingly, there are a lot of weak people in jail. Not everyone is the kind of crazed lunatic you need to be afraid of. If you had a good amount of game on the streets, you would normally be able to find someone to take advantage of on the inside. It's like there are a lot of phony gangsters around whose cards you can pull, like the dudes who's always have something extra to say, but only ever say it into the air. Yo, word to my mother, y'all motherfuckers need to recognize. The bitch will see 3 dudes by the phone and feel like he has the occasion to start complaining. Y'all can't be hogging up that phone time, man. Y'all know what's up with that. Actually, no, we don't know what's up with that phone time, Holmes. Why don't you let us know? And as a matter of fact, which one of us are you referring to? So I didn't have much difficulty finding the inmates I could pressure into putting things on my commissary. The bigger challenge, though, was to get one of them to smuggle you in some weed during visiting hours. A good bag of smoke was worth far more than a chocolate bar or an extra pack of Newports. For 2 weeks, me, Paz, and Rondu had this white kid in our pocket. Have your sister bring us in some smoke or I'll break your fucking neck. Scared of us 3 thugs, our friendly assistant never spoke unless spoken to and always politely stayed on his side of the mod. So I should have known something was wrong the day he walked over to us out of the blue. So you said you wanted me to get my sister to bring in the weed, right? He asked us one morning. Yeah, motherfucker, we already told you that. What are you, stupid? Okay, because she said she's going to bring in the weed today. Yeah, you better have it today, too, you bitch-ass nigga. 10 minutes later, after the riot squad rushed in, locked the whole mod down, and tossed and strip searched everyone, Paz, Rondu, and me were on our way to the big house. The charge? Extortion. Since I was transferred with a write-up, my first week in the main unit of Suffolk County Correctional Facility was spent in the hole, 4 floors up on the lockdown block, in a 6 by 9 foot box by myself that I was never allowed to leave. This was not a mod. The hole is where you have to grind for real. There's little room to move. It's dark. Don't expect even the semblance of humane treatment from the guards. And hope your sink is clean, because if it ain't, you're not going to have anything to drink. But there was something kind of peaceful to me about being locked up in there. It was like loud silence. Maybe all the days I had spent in that office at Andrus, all the months in my room in School Street, all the years in group homes and juvenile had me get ready for what would be a nightmare for most human beings. But I thought a lot, and I wrote more than I ever had before. Song after song, rhyme after rhyme. I produced pages of lyrics alone in that box. I shifted flows, changed styles, tried to experiment with new ways to win a battle or excite a crowd. For me, rapping wasn't going to be no pastime paradise. This was for real. D to the M, from the M to the X, from the X to whatever. MC is next to step up so I can rip up, snatch up, whip up my style, versatile, get wild, I'll sew your lip up. After 2 weeks in the hole, I was transferred out of the lockdown block into the minors. In Suffolk County, since kids was constantly fighting and getting out of control, the warden of the minor block set up a 23-hour lock-in schedule. That meant each inmate had only 1 hour of recreation a day, 60 minutes when you were allowed outside, and the rest of the day you had to spend in your cell. It was just you and your cellmate, and often, since Suffolk County Prison was so ridiculously overcrowded, the 3 other inmates that were forced to share your 2-man space with you. This wasn't juvenile. This was maximum security, the big boys jail, which also meant during those 23 hours, the correction officers let you have it. Come on, you fucking asshole. Get inside the damn gate. It was always the little ones. Hey, Simmons, I said you. Your shower is fucking over. Now what did I say? Get inside the fucking gate. I couldn't take much of that, not from somebody half my size. What? Fuck me? No, how about fuck you? One time, one of the guards rushed me for cursing at him, and I spit right in his eye. And then I got beat down. I mean, beat down by 5 members of the riot squad in full battle gear who loved every minute of beating my ass. The minors went to yard with the PC niggas. PC was protective custody and was where all the sick motherfuckers were. The older guys, the guys on medication or morphine, or just the scared dudes who had to be kept out of the regular population. We weren't on the same side with them because Suffolk County's yard was split into 2 sides by a thick barbed wire fence. We would have fucked around and probably killed them, but we shared the same 60-minute time period. At the farm, I had heard about this guy who was making a name for himself on a rap tip called K-Solo. Supposedly, he was the cousin of an MC named Eric Sermon, who was a big star at the time with the duo EPMD. K-Solo was Eric's heir apparent, and the word was that he would have blown up already if he wasn't locked up. Everybody in the minors knew that I could rhyme because I had taken everybody out on the cell block that thought they had lyrics. So brothers got real excited the day we saw K-Solo on the other side of the fence. I didn't know what he was doing with the PC niggas, but he was there. And the day he said he wanted to battle, it was on. We went back and forth through the fence for the whole hour. I remember he had this little fat black dude with him. You can't fuck with my man Solo, the kid kept yelling. And of course, I had my mans with me. What? Is you crazy? This is DMX's house, punk. It was a good thing that I had been writing the whole time. I was locked up, because K Solo had a lot of rhymes. Every time I hit him with a hot one, he had a response. He was no joke, and after 45 minutes, there was no clear-cut winner. But there was time for one more round before we had to go back in, and I had just written a song called Breaking It Down, where I used a different style in every verse. I was kind of skeptical about how well it would go over, but it was the only rhyme I had left. Luckily, the last verse killed it. There's one more way of breaking it down. This is how a rapper will leave you spellbound. So, yo, bust it. What I'm about to do is SPELL it out to you. The style was to spell out almost every word in the rhyme in letters. I liked it because I knew no one had ever heard anything like it before. And well, it's not like wasn't into spelling shit. Yo, that verse was hot, K Solo said to me afterwards, admitting defeat. How you do that? Most of the letters rhyme anyway, I explained to him proudly. So just write out a cool sentence and then spell it. Just make sure you stay on the beat. K Solo and I never battled again. In the days after, the two of us would just chill and talk through the fence. It was like rapping had given us a mutual respect for each other. I felt good, and I spent the last weeks of my bid in Suffolk County writing more rhymes and just trying to stay out of trouble. Now that I had my first official win under my belt, I just wanted to get back to Yonkers and show everybody that DMX the Great was a bad motherfucker.